had spent their entire professional lives in education. Each had her PhD, but had remained unmarried, married as they were to education itself. Now aged 85, 89, and 92, they lived together in the same house, even as each, in her own way, from time to time, was losing bits of her memory. They belonged to an older generation, even before the baby boomers, and had beautiful Filipino names: Luningning, Luwalhati, Lakambini, which mean respectively light, glory, and noble lady. One day, Luningning was in the bathroom at the second floor of the house, and she suddenly cries, "Help! Help! Hati, help! What's happening?" Well, Hati shouts back, "I am in the bathroom. My right foot is in the shower. My left foot is not. Am I stepping in or stepping out?" "Oh, for goodness sakes," said Nawalhati. "Wait there, I will tell you." And she creeps her way up the stairs, but as she reaches the landing, she loses her memory and asks, "Am I going up or going down?" And Lakambini, who blissfully was reading 50 Shades of Grey, overhears the exchange and sighs, "Oh, my calabos, these sisters of mine. I'm glad my memory is still clear." But being superstitious, just to be sure, she raps the table and says, "Knock one word." And she hears her knocking, and her memory goes, and she says, "Is that the front door or the back door?" Ladies and gentlemen, Spring Rain is a young organization. Only last year, 2018, did we celebrate our 10th anniversary. Though some of us, like myself, are on the other older side of time, most of us individually and organizationally are young and fresh and full of life. And we are here in Kuala Lumpur this middle part of 2019 to make sure that as we grow, our wits continue to be with us. So it is that we near the end of our third Asian conference. We need to make sure that as Spring Rain Global, we share the same overall spirit, even if individually and organizationally in different countries, we each have our own vision and mission, and we serve different communities. So we ask the question, where are we going? Are we stepping in or are we stepping out? Are we going up or are we going down? Are we going forward or are we going backward? Last November 2018 in Bali, Indonesia, I shared my musings on philanthropy as word and philanthropy at work. I titled my presentation then, "To be Human Now." The direction was to distinguish word, W-O-R-D, from work, W-O-R-K, and as, A-S, from at, A-T. sa philanthropy as word and philanthropy at work. That title I took from a long poem by the British poet W.H. Auden titled For the Time Being. In the section that he calls the summons, the call, he describes the gospel story of the wise men, the Magi, who saw what the Christians now call the Star of Bethlehem, that came when Jesus was born. But to them at that time, it was just an unusually bright star, so unique in its light that they left their homes in the east in search of where the star might lead them. And talking on their journey, each was explaining why he was following the star. The first wise one said, "To discover how to be truthful now is the reason I follow the star." The second one says, "To discover how to be living now is the reason I follow the star." The third one says, "To discover how to be loving now is the reason I follow the star." And then in chorus they declare, "Oh, the weather has been awful. The countryside is dreary. Jungle, rock, and echoes mock our hope to be unlawful. At least we know for certain that we are three old sinners, that this journey is much too long, and we miss our dinners, and miss our wives, our books, and our dogs. And we have only the vaguest idea why we are where we are. To discover how to be human now is the reason we follow the star." Why was it that the wise men left their homes to follow a star? W.H. Auden prompts them to say, to discover how to be truthful now, to discover how to be living now, to discover how to be loving now, to discover how to be human now. Three individual reasons becoming one. And to me, these summarize what the core of our being is and what we are trying to consistently be: individual philanthropic development offices in our continent of Asia, stretching out to the whole globe. For philanthropy, etymologically, at heart, is about being, living, and loving, being truthful, thus becoming human. In relation to last year's presentation, then my title now is We Are Family. Supra-titled, that means the title above, is One Step Beyond. Subtitled, Deep Steps Within. It is my way of presenting the topic ethical standards and professionalism in the SRG PDO system. We are family, one step beyond, deep steps within. There is a principle in logic and philosophy that says, first in intention, last in execution. What is first in your mind as an intention, aim, or direction actually becomes the last one in the series of steps that you take to pursue your goal. Like this conference, what was first in our intention was to be here in intercontinental Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and that was the last step in our journey from wherever we were. First in intention, last in execution. Applied to the topic I am presenting, let us first look at the first last group of words and go from there to the first. There is no need to belabor it, but it is important that we do not forget who we are and are trying to be. Interconnecting relationships. A web of life that we call Spring Rain Global Philanthropic Development Offices System. What are we trying to say? And what are the ideas within our name? Spring Rain. The noun and the adjective forms of spring comes from the verb to spring, which first appeared in Old English as springen, meaning to burst out, to leap out suddenly, to rise. The season we know as spring gets its name from the notion of life. Plants, in particular, bursting forth after being dormant during the winter. Spring is water from below the surface of the earth. By God's wonderful and inscrutable design, which comes out to form rivers and streams and lakes, which become our source of life. As water, or as the habitat of the creatures that sustain our life. Some of the water flows into the sea. Some evaporate, our way of saying that the liquid form of water becomes vapor. And they get lifted up to the heavens to condense, that is, to become dense and thick, which we then call clouds. And at a certain point, when the weight of the accumulating water becomes too heavy to bear, the clouds cry, and we call the tears rain. Water which had come from below and had come up to the heavens comes down again. Depending on how it comes together or how it interacts with wind. Sometimes we have gentle rain, sometimes storms and typhoons. Sometimes there is too little rain, sometimes there is too much of it. What is, when it is the first, we have a drought, a dryness. When it is the second, we call what we have floods. This cycle and all the sometimes beautiful and sometimes frightening aspects of it is all part of the name spring rain. The ups and downs, the ins and the outs, the transformations and transmutations of life. May we remember this in the midst of our work in philanthropy. The next word is professionalism. The roots come from the Latin pro, P-R-O, which means for or in front of, and fess, F-E-S-S, which is the past participle of the verb fateri, which means to declare publicly. In the field of work, what is being declared publicly? One of these is the fact that one has passed some kind of test as declared by an outside authority. Look at the general process of education that we have, with variations, of course. We go to school, we study, we learn to see if we have understood what we have heard. We are given tests. The tests are measured and assessed according to a set of standards. If we go through the tests successfully, we pass. This means then we can go to the next level if there is one, and when we pass consistently, according to the agreed series of steps, we graduate. And since people graduate from different schools with their individual standards, high or low or medium, there is a need to see if what one knows or has learned can be applied across a particular region or nation. Thus, national examinations are held. If one passes these examinations, then one is called a professional. You can profess, you confess, proclaim publicly that you know what you are supposed to know. Then you are declared a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a teacher. Who declares that you are professional? A group of people called a board. They declare what from their profession are the standards, what you have to know in order to be declared what you want to be. So our understanding of the adjective professional, it is then applied to the nouns profession and professionalism. All these imply standards, a word which means a level of quality or attainment that is considered acceptable. It is an idea or thing used as a measure or norm or model in comparative evaluation. Standard comes from an old French word which means to stand or to be firm, a firm measure, a gathering place, a standpoint or standing point. Standard even means a battle flag. So anyone and everyone who follows the flag or is willing to be under it or under the command of the one who holds the flag, that is a standard. The process of leading off and leveling off what needs to be known or used or practiced is called standardization. So that's it, professionalism, standardization. When standards relate not only to what is correct or incorrect, complete or incomplete, to what is good or bad, right or wrong, then we enter the field of ethics. The basic idea of which word is what a particular society considers as acceptable behavior. The Greeks call it ethos, E-T-H-O-S in our spelling. Ethos, ethics, ethical. When one adds the concept of conscience, the Latin word mos, M-O-S, moris, is used. Then you enter the field of morals and morality. Ethics, ethical, ethos, morals, morality, and morals. So there we are. Ethics or morals may take in one or the other words Christian or Catholic or Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever source of one's standards may be. And sometimes the word or phrase is the reality of God. It's explicit. Sometimes it is not. But to a believer, as I declare I am, God is the origin and the judge of all these. In him we have our life and our being. Ethics and morality ask the question of each of us. What motivation do we have when we do our work? What do we think or not think? What do we say or fail to say? Is there justice and love in our work? As we stretch out our heart and hand to those in need, do we pay just wages to our workers in our offices and in the field? Do we use our funds well and responsibly? Are we honest in our reporting to our donors? That is part of ethics and morality. And you have to know what are the standards there. Internally, do we give space to one another? Do we hurt one another in pursuit of our goals, no matter how noble they may be? Do we know how to say, I'm sorry, I forgive you, let us move on? Do we say, I love you, not necessarily in an intimate, romantic way, but in the good Samaritan way, in the Jesus way of laying down one's life for one's friends or enemies? Where is the love in our life? Where is the love in our work that we proclaim in our word? Where is the love? That's part of ethics, of the standards that we must pay attention to. In putting these words in our conference and conversation, we are implying that if we have, and we are a system that we say is unique to spring rain, then we have to set up and know and agree on what those standards and expectations may be. If we pass them or measure up to them, then we belong to one another. If we do not pass, perhaps we should at least be in the process of passing those standards. There is one thing that I need to add when talking about professional and professionalism. These words are often contrasted with amateur and amateurism. The implication is that if one is still a learner or a neophyte and may not yet have passed a national or international measure or examination or standard, then one is simply an amateur. In the field of sports, an amateur is not supposed to be receiving any money, not to be paid for winning a contest, not when having an accomplishment. One may be a champion, but an amateur may not receive money as a prize. Trophies, yes. Allowances, yes, but not wages and salaries. That is on that level how you distinguish an amateur and a professional. Given this usual contrast and differentiation between amateurism and professionalism, my personal crusade is that a professional, even though one has passed the standards for that level, a professional must always retain one's love for the job or the work. One that must remain an amateur at heart, even if one is a professional. The French word amateur, that we pronounce in English as amateur, has its relation to the Spanish amar, amor, and the Latin amare, to love. So my position is that if an amateur needs to aim to become a professional must know how to remain a lover, an amateur, one who works not just for the money, but from the heart. In spring rain, my hope is that each of us and all of us strive to be professional, but remain amateurs. Professional people who love, loving people who adhere to the standards of the profession. Professional amateurs, amateur professionals. When we agree to be these and strive to relate to one another as these, then we become family. That's the title of my talk. We are family. Family originally means people connected by the same bloodline. share the same name because coming from the same set of parents or grandparents. In the natural family, height and color and shape of eyes and other facial features are the usual indications of belongingness. I submit that what we now call spring rain, global, philanthropic, development office ecosystem can be called family. What brings us together is a common love for the family of humankind. We have different names, belong to different races and religions and congregations and countries and faiths, but what binds us together is love and our common humanity, the very essence of philanthropy. Years ago in 1971, sisters of the family name Sledge, S-L-E-D-G-E, named Debbie and Joni and Kim and Kathy, formed a singing group, Sister Sledge. They had a breakthrough album in 1979 titled, We Are Family. They sang, We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. Everybody can see we're together as we walk on and fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell a lie. That's how the Sister Sledge sang. We are family. And interestingly, the place where Sister Sledge came from was Philadelphia in the United States of America, a city that traces its name to the same root as philanthropy, Philadelphia. We are family. We are family. Now, if the song itself, at least the title I propose, is something that we could use to identify ourselves, Spring Rain Global, we are family. To these, my title, though, that we are or that we must strive to be and become family, I add a supra title, a phrase above the title, and it is one step beyond. In the 1960s, when there was yet no color television, there was a popular weekly series called One Step Beyond. Very interesting for 30 minutes with very dramatic music and evidence. It showed different episodes and of people experiencing extraordinary things, paranormal things, strange, that One Step Beyond was the only title fitting to it. It recorded experiences one step beyond the normal. My take is that we at Spring Rain Global, we are family, as we may be. We also need to look one step beyond where we are. One step beyond what is required and what is necessary. This is my supra title, the title above we are family, always, always one step beyond. We take an extra mile, one step beyond what we see now, to take a look upward to God, to take a look around to other people and our earth. Always strive to take one step beyond, so we do not stagnate and rot and die. I also have a subtitle, a title beneath the main title, We Are Family, and that is Deep Steps Within. That is a call to regularly pause for rest and meditation and prayer. I'm sure we all work and work hard for others, for ourselves, This is the reason we are in philanthropy. I submit, however, that unless we have regular time for ourselves with God, for what the Jewish, Christian, and Catholic traditions call the Sabbath, we will tire ourselves out even in the midst of the most beautiful and noble tasks that we may be doing. Deep steps within, for me, call for the following. Come to the quiet. Drink from the inner spring. Rain, rise to the heavens. Spill out and spread the rain. These are the deep steps within. And this is how to be spring rain in fact, and not just in name. As Jesus said to his disciples when they returned from their first missionary journey, all excited that the devils were fleeing from them, and they were curing the sick, and they were preaching the gospel, Jesus said, "Ups, ups, 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 come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while." It is a gospel text of the Old Testament thought in Psalm 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am. I am God. I am. David says, be still and know that I am. Jesus also said, come to me, all you who are weary and are heavily burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Is this ever part of our daily or weekly, monthly, or yearly grind? It should be, if it is not. It is what the author Teddy Hershey calls the power of pause. A book of his that sprang from his weekly meditation in the internet every Sunday, which he calls Sabbath Moment. Google it. Teddy Hershey, as Hershey chocolate, Sabbath Moment. You can subscribe to it. You pay if you can. You don't pay if you cannot. Sabbath Moment. Beautiful meditations and experiences. Rest. Another Teddy, this time Teddy Tempest Williams, says, the pause between our heartbeats is the silent space that says we live only by grace. Feel your heartbeat. Feel your pulse. Tug, 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 tug. The space between the heartbeat is what tells us that we live only by grace. If you go to the hospital and your blood, your pulse is being seen in a monitor, you will see the line. That's the space. Tug, 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 tug. When you are dead, no more pause. It is an eternal pause. Now, while we live, it is important that we pause between the heartbeat. We live by grace. In her turn, a lady called Celeste Snober offers this thought. Beautiful. We need to carve time for dwelling in the quiet places, to discover our own inner landscape and the landscape of God. We must also pay attention in the cracks of our life to see the gracelets, the moments of meaning in the mundane. Oh, I love that term, gracelet. If you have something to decorate your braso, your brace, you have a bracelet. You put it in your feet, you have an anklet. And Celeste says there is a gracelet, little grace, that you don't notice in the moments of mundane, but just find it. There are gracelets, little graces, sprinkled in time. You won't notice it if you don't pause. So it is in the quiet moment that we seek for ourselves and make part of our daily grind, that we can sort out the problems and our pains that come from our work that we do. No matter how sincere we are and noble our tasks, we hurt and get hurt. We cry. We're not always sincere. We're not always anxious to serve others. We don't always love, even though we are in philanthropy. You know, you check your life. How many insulting words have we said to the other? We are angry because the work has not been done. The love disappears. Sometimes the money disappears. And so though our nature in philanthropy is rooted in our humanity and in our love, in the very same midst do we encounter the difficulties of loving and being human. And you sort this out in the quiet moments. It is in the moments of calm that we can sort out the temptations to quit because of our tiredness. In a quiet moment, you touch again and drink again from the spring within us. Be refreshed again in the love we must uphold, despite the love that makes us cry. We are not family by birth or blood, but by choice, by commonly agreed traits. And as in any other family, natural or not, we have and will have differences. Pope Francis is a very telling sharing about families. He said, in families, there are difficulties. In families, we argue. In families, sometimes the plates fly. In families, the children give us headaches. And I'm not even going to mention the mother-in-law. But in families, there is always the cross. Always. Because the love of God, the love of the Son of God always opened for us this path. But in families as well, after the cross there is resurrection. Because the Son of God also opened for us this path. Because of this, family is, forgive the term I'll use, it is a factory of hope, of life, and of resurrection. God was the one who created this path. In families, there are difficulties, but these difficulties are overcome with love. Hate doesn't overcome any difficulty. Division of hearts doesn't overcome any difficulty. Only love is capable of overcoming difficulties. Love, the Pope continues, is a festival. Love is joy. Love is to keep moving forward. I hope we aim that we have and keep and grow in that love. The center of humanity, the heart of philanthropy. As Jacques Brel once composed, if we only have love, then tomorrow will dawn, and the days of our years will rise on that morn. If we only have love to embrace without fears, we will kiss with our eyes, we will sleep without fears. If we only have love, with our arms open wide, then the young and the old will stand by our side. If we only have love, love that's falling like spring rain, then the parched desert earth will grow green again. If we only have love for the hymn that we shout and the song that we sing, then we'll have a way out. If we only have love, we can reach those in pain. We can heal all our wounds. We can use our own names. If we only have love, we can melt all the guns and then give the new world to our daughters and sons. If we only have love, then Jerusalem stands, and then death has no shadow. There are no foreign lands. If we only have love, we will never bow down. We'll be tall as the pines, neither heroes nor clowns. If we only have love, then we'll only be men, and we'll drink from the grail to be born once again, and then with nothing at all but the little we are, we'll have conquered all time, all space, the sun and the stars. If we only have love, we are family. Thank you.